February has started. Let it be a blessing for this month. Okay, so what does it, your transportation problem, what we have done? In your transportation problem, we have gone through your northwest corner rule, least cost method. Okay, only your northwest corner rule, we have not gone into your least cost method. So in your northwest corner rule, what you'll have to do in that matrix, whatever given matrix, so I will write that matrix. So this was one of the problem, 1, 2, 6, 0, 4, 2, 3, 1, and 5. Okay, so for this, you're going to find out your initial basic feasible solution, 7, 12, 11, and 10, 10, and 10. Okay, for your transportation problem, your first step is to see whether your supply and demand are equal. Okay, your supply, this is your supply, and this is your demand according to the question. Okay, your supply, we take it as summation A. Okay, you will add it, you're getting it 30. And similarly, your summation B is your demand, that also is 30. Since they both are equal, what do you imply? It is a balanced transportation problem. You have to write this, then only you can continue with the problem. Okay. So first you'll have to see whether your supply and demand are equal. If they are equal, you have to write it as it is balanced transportation problem. And then what you'll have to do, you have to see how many rows and how many columns are there. So here in this problem, if you see how many rows are there, 1, 2, and 3, and how many columns are there, 1, 2, and 3. So you have to see how many allocation can be done. So how many rows and how many columns, how you can find out the number of allocation? What was the formula? How do you find out your number of allocation? Your number of allocation will be your m rows plus your n columns minus 1. Okay, your number of allocation will be m plus n minus 1. Here your m is 3 rows and 3 columns minus 1. So that will be 5 allocations. Okay, for all the methods which you are doing, you will have 5 allocations. Okay, not more than that. If you have more than that, whatever you have done is wrong. Okay, so we will start with this. So I will just revise your northwest corner rule. So after seeing whether this is a balanced transportation problem, I will do it in the same problem itself, your northwest corner rule. Okay, according to your northwest corner rule, what you have to do? Your first method is northwest corner method. So in your northwest corner method, what you have to do? You have to see your northern value. That is your first cell in the matrix. Okay, you see the first cell in the matrix. So for that first cell, you see your supply and demand. Okay, you see your supply and demand. Whichever is your least value, you will allocate it here. So 7 and 10, so you will allocate 7 here. Okay, we have taken it from here, so I'm crossing over here. You will minus it here, so here it becomes 3. Okay, so this the first one I'm doing is your northwest corner method. Okay, next again, if you see in this tableau column, whichever is not striked off, which is your northwest value. Okay, so this is your first value in this tableau column. So for the 0, you will see a 12 and 3, which is your least value. So 3 is your least value. You will allocate 3. You have got it from here, so you cross over here. You will minus 3 here, so it will become 9. Okay, continuously be seeing whether your supply and demand is equal. So if you add it here, 9 plus 11 is 20, 10 plus 10 is 20. So it is a balanced transportation problem. Now the strike without striking, if you see 4, 2, 1 and 5. This is northwest method. So you will take your first cell from this. So this is your first cell. So 9 and 10, whichever is your least value, you will allocate it here. Okay, we have taken it from here, so we cross over here. This will become 1. Okay, and then you have got this and this. In this and this, you take your first value, which is your northwest corner rule. Because we are using a northwest method, we will take the first value, 11 and 1. So we will allocate 1. We have taken it from here, so this will get crossed over, and this will become 10, and this is So you see how many steps, how many allocation are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, 5 allocations are there. Now you'll find out your initial basic feasible solution. That is, you will multiply, so it will be 7
Ma'am,
plus
5
this is
எப்படி
0,
இருந்துச்சு?
10. Both the 10s are there, no? Here 1 10, here 1. So we are allocating 10. Okay, that you know. Okay, so here the supply and demand you have to see. Your supply and demand both are 10. Okay, it is a balanced transportation problem. So your last step, you will get the same supply and demand. You have to get. Okay, so that's how you are putting this 10. So you can cross over here and also here. All the values are crossed over. Understood? Yeah. So from here, 0 into 3 will become 0. And then 9 into 4, 36. Plus 1 into 1 is 1. Plus 50. Okay. Then you will add it. What do you get? 36, 94. Okay. So this is the value where you're getting it for your northwest corner method, your initial basic feasible solution. Okay. For the same problem, we will do your least cost method. Your least cost method. Okay. I will do it in the same table column. 1, 2, 6. And then you've got 0, 4, 2, 3, 1, and 5. Then you're writing your supply and demand. Write it carefully. Don't go wrong in writing your supply and demand and your values. Okay. If you go wrong in any values, the whole problem will go wrong. Okay. Be very careful in writing your values. Okay. After that, now I'm going to do your least cost method. In your least cost method, what you have to do? In your least cost method, what you'll have to do? In that tableau column, whichever is your least value, you will take it. Okay, whichever is your least value in that matrix table, you have to take it. So in this matrix column or matrix table, your least value is 0. Okay, 0 is your least value. For your 0, you see your supply and demand. Whichever is your least value, you will allocate. So for the 0, 10 and 12 is there. So 10 is your least value, so we will allocate 10. Okay, we have taken it from this column. So this column is how.
One more time.
You ask me what you want. One more. So in your least cost method, what you'll have to do in that tabular column, whichever is your least value. Which is your least value? You tell me. Which is your least value in this full tabular column?
0. 0.
0 is your least value. Okay. For the 0, you have to see this supply and demand. Supply and demand. That value. That row wise supply and demands column wise. Okay. In the 12 and 10, whichever is your least value, you will allocate it in 0. Okay. So in that 12 and 10, your least value is 10. So I'm allocating here. I've taken it from here, so I've crossed over there. Okay. And since we have taken 10 here, this will become 2. That will become 2. Okay. Now, from this, you have to see which is your least value. Which is your least value? Which is your least value? In the left, 1 is your least value. So 1, you see your supply and demand. Okay. Your supply and demand is 11 and 10. In your 11 and 10, whichever is your least value, you will allocate it for your 1. So for 11 and 10, you're
Ma'am.
able to hear me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
value you will take. So whichever is your least value in the 6, 2, and 5, you will
Ma'am, doubt,
take that
ma'am.
least value. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
மேம் அந்த
What is your
0th பேரப்ல வந்து இந்த 2 சைடுமே அடிக்கணும் மேம். 1 சைடு மட்டும் தான் அடிச்சிருக்கீங்க.
0? This one you have got. Tell me.
மேம்
Why
அந்த
you have
காலத்துல
not
2
crossed
சைடு
over this side? You're
எஸ் சார்.
I'm taking 10 from here only. This 12 I'm not taking. You have to see your supply and demand. Whichever is your least value, you will allocate it there. From wherever you have taken that column or row, you will strike it out.
நார்த் வெஸ்ட் கார்னர் உள்ள 2
I will
சைடு
do it.
பண்ணுங்க மேம் இப்போ.
For 0, you need not do. Here, you need not do any northwest corner rule. You are telling me about the problem which I did it in your class. There, I didn't have that 0 there. I had 2. Okay, you had a value there. Now, I put 0. You're comparing it with that problem, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you're having if you're having two values with the same value, you will be using northwest corner rule. That value, why you took? Because the 0 was not there in that problem. The problem which I did it that day, there it was not 0, isn't it? Was there 0 in that problem? You had a value there. Okay. So here your 0 is your least value. So for your 0, you will see your supply and demand.
0
Which was your
என்ன
least value? You had 0. Then probably I didn't take that 0. Okay. 0, if you have got some value like 0, that is your least value. First you will allocate it for that. And then only you will have to go to the next value. Okay, wow. So just concentrate again. So I will do it again. So in this tabular column itself, your least value is 0. I will rub it and do it again. So that that day you had 0 there. Okay. So I have left out that 0. 1, 2, 6, 0, 4, and 2, 3, 1, and 5. Okay, now. Maybe probably I left out that 0. Okay. So now again I will do it from the first. In the tabular column, you have to see which is your least value. Your least value, if you see, 0 is your least value. 0 is your least value. For your 0, you will see your supply and demand. Okay, your supply and demand, if you see, it is 10 and 12. In that, whichever is your least value, you will allocate it here. Okay, we have taken it from here, so we will cross over here, so this will become 2. Okay, from the values which are not striked off, whichever is your least value, whichever is your least value here is 1. Okay, so 1, you have to see your supply and demand. So your demand, you have got 10, your value is this. So we will strike over this and this will become 1. Okay, now with the values which are there, which are not striked off, you will take the value which is least value. So your least value here will become 2. So for your 2, you have to see your supply and demand. Be continuously seeing whether this supply and demand are equal. Okay, you have to always check whether your supply and demand are equal. So 7 plus 2, 9 plus 1, 10. And here also it is 10. Okay. Then you have to see your least value. So 2. For your 2, your supply is 2 and demand is 10. So whichever is your least value, you will allocate it. And here it will become 8. Okay, whichever value is not striked off, okay, that value, whichever is your minimum value, you will take it. So this is your minimum value. See your supply and demand. So you will allocate 1 and this will become 7. Okay, the last value for this 7 and 7. So you will allocate 7. Okay, and then you have to find out your initial basic feasible solution. You have to see how many number of allocation is being done. Okay, you have found out your number of allocation. You can have 5 allocations. So check whether you've got your 5 allocation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, you can get only 5 allocations. Okay, how many ever rows and columns you have got, you will do it. You will add it minus 1. Okay, So that will be your allocation. So 6 7 star 42 plus 0 plus 4 plus 10 plus 5. If at all I have done that problem without taking into consideration that 0, just cancel out that problem. Okay. This is the correct one. You have to take your least value first and then go into the next least value. Probably I would have left at 0. So then you add it, you will be having 46, 56, 61. So for your least cost method, your initial basic feasible solution is 61. Okay? Write it down. Okay, you're finished with your least cost method. Next, we will go on to row minima. Okay, your row minima method. The next method will be row minima method. Okay. In your row minima method, from the name itself, you will start it from your first row. You have to see a minimum value. For that minimum value, you will allocate and continue. Okay, just like that, you will have to continue. So for your first row, which is your minimum value? Your row minima method, your first row you'll have to see. In the first row, whichever is your minimum value, you will consider. So here you've got 1, 2, and 6. So for 1, 2, and 6, your minimum value is 1. For this one, you see your supply and demand. Okay, whichever is your least value, you will allocate. So 7 and 10. So you will allocate 7. Okay, we have taken it from there. So we cross over that. This will become 3. Okay, you're minusing that 7 here. Next, again go into your row minima method. In your row minima method, you have to see your row wise, whichever is your minimum value, you will take it, allocate your supply and demand, allocate it from your supply and demand. So for this, in the second row, 0 is your least value. See your supply and demand. So it is 12 and 3. So you will allocate 3 here. And we have got it from here. So we will cross over here. Here you will minus 3. So that will become 9. Okay, this is row minima method. You are doing your row minima method. Okay, since it is row minima method, again, if you see your first row, which is under consideration, is 4, 2. Okay, in this 4 and 2, whichever is your least value, it is row minima method. Okay, whichever is your least value, you will see your supply and demand. Okay, so this 2 is your least value. If you see your supply and demand, 9 and 10. So you will allocate your minimum allocation from your supply. They have got it from here, so we will cross it here. This will become okay. Next, your last row, we have got this 1 and 5. You have to see whichever is your minimum value. So 1 is your minimum value. For this 1, you see your supply and demand. So 11 and 10 we have got. So 10 is your minimum value. You take it here. You're crossing over 10 and this will become 1. And your final one is, you've got 1 and 1, so we will allocate it here. So this is also getting cancelled. Okay, your row minima is nothing but, you have to start it from your first row. Whichever is your minimum value, you will see your supply and demand and allocate it for that minimum value. You will cross over if you've got it from your column or if you've got it from your row. Okay, and then move on to the next row. Next row, again, you have to see your minimum value. Whichever is your minimum value, first you will allocate. After allocating it, you will again cross over till you finish your last value. Now you have to see how many allocations are there. So since there are six, that is 3 rows and 3 columns minus 1. So it is 5 allocation you should have. See 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we have got 5 allocation. So for this you find out your initial basic feasible solution. So your initial basic feasible solution is 7 plus 0 plus 18 plus 10 plus 5. Okay, so this is row minima method. In the same problem, they can ask you row maxima method also. Maximum method is nothing but you in the first row you will take a maximum value and allocate. Okay, add it. So it will be 7, 25, 34. You've got doubts, ask me. So your row minima method. Row wise minimum value you will take and you will allocate. You will take row wise minimum value and allocate. And then you have 1, 2, 6. Same problem. You've got doubts, ask me. That is your row minimum. Okay, you're finished. Next, we will go on to column minima. Any of you try this? Column minima. Next will be column minima method. The same way what you have done it for your row. Here now you will be considering your column. Okay, consider your column and find out the allocation. Let's see, try it out. In your column, you have to see whichever is your least value. Okay, you will allocate it. So which is your least value in your first column?
0, ma.
0. So for your 0, allocate your supply and demand. So which value you will allocate? I've
10.
got 12 and so you will allocate 10. So we have taken this 10 from here. So this you will cross over. Since we have taken 10, this will become 2. Don't forget to minus it. If you forget to minus it, it will become unbalanced transportation problem. You have to make it balanced transportation problem. Okay. Now, second column you have to see. Okay, your second column will become your first column. In that, which is your least value, you have to see. Which is your least value?
1.
1 is your least value. So for your 1, you see your supply and demand. So 11 and 10 we have got. So we will allocate 10. So we will cross it over here because we have taken it from here. This will become 1. Okay. From your third column, you have to see your least value. So your third column is your least value. 2 is your
2,
least value. Very good. So for your 2, you see your supply and demand. In your supply and demand, whichever value is smaller, you will allocate it. Which value is small? You've got your 2
2.
and 10. So 2 is your smaller value. You will allocate that 2 crossover. Here it will become 8. Okay. Then again, that is your column which you've got. Okay. So 6 and 5 you've got. In that, whichever is your least value, you will allocate. So this is your least value. 1 and 8 we have got. So we will allocate 1 here. And this will become 7. Okay. The last value. The last cell, which has not got any allocation, you've got 7 and 7, so you will allocate 7. So this is how so you have to see whether there is 5 allocations. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. It should have 5 allocations. Then you find out your initial basic feasible solution. Your initial basic feasible solution, 6 7s are 42, plus 0, plus 4, plus 10, plus 5. Find out. 46, 56, 61. Sometimes the values may get, you can get the same values. The last topic is your VAM method. Okay, so we have finished your northwest, least cost, row minima, column minima. Next, we are going into VAM's method. Okay, so that is a very different problem. When you're writing your values, be very careful when you write your values. Don't go wrong in writing. For this VAM method, first you all keep your pen down and you will listen to me. Then you can write it down. Because it is little different. Okay. Now we are going to do your VAM method. Okay, your VAM method is nothing but Vogel's approximation method. Okay. That is your VAM method. Vogel's approximation method. This method is like you can tell, you will get a perfect value like that. Okay. So in this Vogel's method, what you'll have to do, just listen, then you can write it down. So each row you will take, okay, for each row you will take your first two smallest values, okay, from each row. So this, if you see from the first row, you've got 1 and 2. Okay, you will write a difference. Okay, in what is the difference between these two values? It is 1. You will write it here. Okay, again go into the next one. You have to see which is your least two values. Okay, so 0 and 2. What is the difference? Write that here. Okay, and again go into this row, which is your least two values. So 1 and 3. What is the difference? Write that. Okay, I will repeat it again. What you have to do in your VAM method, your first step is to see in this tabular column, you have to start it row wise. Okay, so in your row wise, when you start it, you have to see in your first row which is your least two values. Okay, that least two values, you will find the difference, write it on the side. Similarly, from the second row, third row. Okay, the same thing you will follow for your column also. Okay, in the column, you have to see your least two values. So 1 and 0, your difference is 1. And here your least two values are 1 and 2. So your difference is 1. And you have to see here your least two values, if you see 2 and 5. So you will write the difference. Okay, so write the first step. You write and keep however you understood. Okay, so that will be your first step. Write it down. Write it down and keep. So first you will find out the difference. That will be your first step. After finding out your difference, what you'll have to do, in this difference, whatever you've got, you have to see the biggest value, biggest difference. Okay, which is your biggest difference which you've got? 3 is your biggest difference. This 3 has got it from this column. Okay, this 3 difference has got it from this column. Whichever column you have got, you have to see your least value. Okay, whichever column or row. Here, since we have got this column, that column least value you will see. Your least value, supply and demand you have to write. So you have to see your supply and demand. So 10 and 12. So you will allocate 10. Okay, we have taken it from here. So we will cross over and this will become 2. Okay, I will repeat it again. You have written all. Yes, I have written. So row wise, you have to see your least two values. Write the difference here. Put like this itself. This bracket itself, you put like this bracket. You have to write the difference for your row wise and column wise. Okay. After writing the difference, what you have to do, you have to see the biggest difference. You have found out the difference. Now, in that, whichever is your biggest difference, you will take it. Okay, so from here we have taken. So 3 is the biggest difference. From where it has come from this column. Okay, so from this column, whichever is your least value in this column, whichever is your least value, for that you will see your supply and demand. You will see your supply and demand. Whichever is your least value, you will allocate here and you will cross over. And since we have taken 10, here it becomes. Okay. Yes. Again, your next step, again, what you have to do, you have to see your least values. Okay, least two values. Start is from the row. So 1 and 2 difference, like 1. 0 and 4 is only there. So your difference will be 4 because we are strike off this 2. So that won't, you can't take that value. Only 0 and 4 is there. So the difference will be 4. 3 and 1 is there. So your difference is 2. Okay. I'm going into the second step. Okay. Now column wise I'm going to do. Column wise as I do, I'm getting 1 difference. And here your difference is 1. Okay, so I've done the second step now. In second difference, I found out in that second difference, whichever is your biggest value, which is your biggest difference here, which is your biggest difference. You've got 1, 1, 2, 4, and 1. Your bigger difference is this 4. Okay, so this 4 we have got it from this column and this row. 4 we have got it from this row. So in this row, whichever is your least value, you will allocate. So 0 is your least value. We have got 2 and 10. So for 2 and 10, whichever is your least value, you will allocate. So when you allocate, it will be 2. You're allocating it here. So here it becomes 8. So here you will cross over. Okay. So this is your highest difference you've got. For that difference, you'll see the corresponding row from where you've got. You have to see your least value. For that least value, see your supply and demand. Since 2 is least value, you allocate that 2 here, and here it will become 8, the minus 8. Okay. Again, find out your difference. Your first row, if you see 1 and 2 is there, so your difference is 1. Here you don't have any values. 3 and 1 you've got, so it will be 2. You have to find out the difference. Okay, don't put negative sign and all, just finding out the difference. What is the difference? So 1 and 3 we have got here. We have got, so 2, 1 and 2, 1. Okay, now we have got 2, 1, 2 and 1. Okay, we have got 2 places 2. Okay, so you can take your northwest corner method. Okay, so we have got here also 2, here also 2. So you can take from here. Okay, so we can take your northwest corner method. So we can take this column. In this column, whichever is your least value, take it. So your least value in this column, if you see 1 and 3 we have got. Okay, in this one, so 1 will be your least value. For this one, your supply and demand you have to see. So your supply and demand, if you see 7 and 8 you have got. So we will allocate 7 here. So 7 we will cancel out and this will become 1. So here it is 1 and here 1 plus 10 which is 11. Here also it is 11. Okay. So now find out again your difference. Only these two values are there. So 3 and 1, your difference will be 2. Here your difference will be 3. Here your difference will be 1. So we have got 3, 1 and 2. 3, 1 and 2. Which is your biggest difference here? 3 is your biggest difference. So for your 3, if you see only this value is there. Okay. So for this value, see your supply and demand. When you see your supply and demand, 1 is your least value. So you allocate 1 from here and this will become. Okay. So the last value is only 1 we have got, 10 and 10. So we will allocate 10. That's how you do your VAN method. Okay. So after doing your problem, you have to see how many allocations are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 allocations are there. I will repeat it again. So from the first step, what you have to do is, you have to do your row wise, you have to take a minimum value. Okay, minimum 2 values you have to take and write the difference in the side. You will write the difference in the side. In that difference, whichever is your bigger difference from wherever from your column you have got, you will see in that column your least value. If at all it was from your row, you will see in that row your minimum value. You will allocate your supply and demand, whichever is your least value, you will allocate it. Okay, for that cell and crossover. The same step has to be proceeded until your last step. Okay, and then you'll have to find out your initial basic feasible solution. Your initial basic feasible solution will be 7 plus 0 plus 20 plus 3 plus 10. So that will be 10, 30, 40. So this is your initial basic feasible solution by your VAM method. Okay, write it down. If you've got doubts, you ask them.